Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at a recent piece from social media today. It just came out May 26th, 2025,
Right.
and it really digs into some, well, pretty significant problems the platform X ran into recently.
Yeah, if you were trying to use X, you probably noticed some serious bumps.
Definitely. This article, it's titled X Suffers Major Outages After Fire in U.S. Data Center by Andrew Hutchinson, and it gives us a good look, based on the source, at what might have gone down,
Hmm.
and some, interesting context around it all.
Absolutely. And the core thing the article discusses, it's these outages, right? A whole series of them that hit X users pretty hard.
Yeah, and the potential cause that the source lays out is kind of dramatic, actually. A big fire at one of X's data centers.
In Oregon, their article says, and it happened late last week, according to their reporting.
Right.
And the source suggests the fire itself was apparently started by a battery issue, which is, something you hear about sometimes with data centers.
Okay, a battery issue.
Yeah, and crucially, the article points out that the effects then just sort of cascaded through X's whole network. That's what led to all the problems people were seeing. It wasn't like a small, isolated thing. And
And those problems were pretty widespread, it sounds like. Lots of people saying they couldn't log in.
right.
And apparently even new user signups were affected, just completely broken for a while.
Seems so. X did acknowledge there were problems pretty fast, though. On Friday, the article quotes them saying, we are experiencing a data center outage, and the team is actively working to remediate the issue.
Okay, so they confirmed an outage.
Yes. And then Saturday, they followed up. The article has that quote, too. We're still experiencing issues from yesterday's data center outage. Login and sign-up services are unavailable for some users, and there may be delays in notifications and premium features. Our team is working 24/7 to resolve this.
Working 24/7, so they knew it was serious.
Clearly.
Now, the article is careful to point out X hasn't specifically come out and said, yes, the fire caused all of this.
Right. No official confirmation linking the two directly in those statements.
But, I mean, given the timing, the location, the type of problems,
Hmm.
the source strongly suggests the fire seems to be the root cause here.
It lines up, certainly, and this kind of leads into another point the article brings up. The whole recovery effort.
How quickly they could fix things.
Exactly. The source notes that X is working with a much reduced team compared to, the old Twitter days.
Ah, okay. Fewer hands on deck.
Right. So the article suggests that having fewer resources, well, it might have stretched out the time it took to get everything back online after such a complex failure.
That makes sense. Infrastructure problems can be tricky.
Especially cascading ones.
But, okay, the article throws in another layer here. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
At the same time, all this technical chaos is happening. Elon Musk announces he's actually scaling back his work on that government efficiency project.
Oh, right. The DOGE initiative, as the article calls it. His advisory role on streamlining federal stuff.
Yeah. He's stepping back from that, the article says, to focus more intensely on his businesses.
Yeah.
Tesla, SpaceX, and importantly here, X and XAI.
Huh. Interesting timing.
Right. He apparently said, and the article quotes him, that he felt his main work on DOGE was basically done.
Okay. So he could justify this shift.
Yeah, though he'd still spend a day or two per week on the government projects as required by the president. But the main focus, shifting back.
And did he say why exactly?
His quote is pretty direct. I must be super focused on XAI and Tesla, plus Starship launch next week, as we have critical technologies rolling out.
Okay, so critical rollouts demanding his attention makes sense from his perspective.
So let's try and, pull these threads together. We've got this major technical failure, possibly from a fire.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the context of maybe a smaller team dealing with it.
Right, the resource angle.
And then, boom, Musk pivots his focus right back onto X's operations just as this happens. What kind of picture does the article paint with all that?
Well, it paints a picture of a platform, really grappling with some pretty fundamental infrastructure issues.
Yeah.
At the exact moment, its owner decides he needs to be more hands-on again. And the article gives a bit more detail from Musk about the outage itself, operationally speaking.
Like what?
He specifically mentioned that the failover redundancy measures, they didn't work in this case.
Okay, failover redundancy. So for listeners, that's basically the backup plan, right?
Yeah.
The systems that are supposed to take over automatically if the main ones go down.
That's exactly it, your safety net.
And it failed.
Apparently so. The article quotes Musk saying it failed, and because of that, he concluded that major operational improvements need to be made.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty stark admission. Major improvements needed.
Yeah, it suggests the problem wasn't just one faulty battery, maybe, but something more systemic in how the backups were configured or maintained, according to the source anyway.
Right. And the article also mentions that while X itself gave little insight into the really specific technical reasons for everything going down,
Yeah, they kept it fairly high level.
Musk himself made a very uh, Musk-like statement. He said he'd be sleeping in conference factory rooms to personally dedicate time to fixing these problems across his companies.
Ah, yes, the classic Musk move.
Is that what the article says?
Well, it reflects on it, yeah. The source suggests this kind of statement, it adds to his whole unrelenting workaholic image, the mythos around him.
Right.
And the author kind of questions whether that's like practically necessary today with remote access and all that, maybe more symbolic.
Symbolic of that intense personal focus, perhaps, putting himself right there.
Exactly. It sends a message.
So what's the potential upside here, according to the article, with Musk refocusing and saying major improvements are needed?
Well, the suggestion is that maybe, just maybe, with his attention back squarely on X and this clear signal that operations need fixing, perhaps issues like this outage could get sorted out faster in the future.
He might push harder for those fixes.
Potentially. And the article also hints that this renewed focus could, maybe speed up some of those bigger X projects.
Like the payments stuff.
Yeah, in-stream payments, banking features,
Hmm.
all that stuff tied into the Everything app vision he talks about. Maybe this operational crisis refocuses effort there too, eventually.
Interesting. And did things get back to normal quickly after the outage?
The source does wrap up that part by saying X was reportedly running much more smoothly over the long weekend that followed. So the immediate firefighting, it seems, was successful.
Okay, so immediate crisis apparently averted. But the article really uses this one incident, this reported fire, the outage, to kind of shine a light on a whole bunch of things.
Definitely. Like the physical risks to data centers,
Yeah.
real world stuff like fires.
Yeah, not just code. And the sheer complexity of running a global platform like this.
And how team size might play into resilience.
Uh-huh. And then the leadership style, that very hands-on approach trying to fix foundational problems while also chasing these huge future goals.
It really connects the dots based on the source material. How a technical glitch isn't just technical, it links straight to organization, resources, strategy, stuff that affects you, the user, very directly.
Okay, so just to wrap up our deep dive into this Social Media Today article on the X outage, we saw this reported incident, likely starting with a fire in an Oregon data center.
Probably a battery issue, the source suggests, which led to cascading network problems, login failures, delays, that sort of thing.
Right. And X did acknowledge a data center outage, said they were working 24/7 on it, but confirmed issues lasted into the next day for some key services.
And the article highlighted that X has that much reduced team, suggesting, maybe that played a role in how long the fix took.
And super interestingly, this all happened just as Elon Musk announced he was shifting his main focus back to his businesses, including X, pulling back a bit from the government efficiency work.
Yeah, the timing was notable, and Musk himself pointed out, according to the article, that a key safety net failover redundancy failed this time.
Leading him to say major operational improvements need to be made.
Exactly. And while X was kind of quiet on the exact tech details, Musk made that statement about sleeping in conference or factory rooms.
Which the article frames as part of his workaholic mythos, maybe more symbolic than practical these days.
Perhaps. But the article suggests the upside could be that this renewed focus might mean faster fixes down the line, and maybe even faster progress on things like payments, pushing towards that Everything app.
And the platform did get back to running smoothly, relatively quickly, over that long weekend.
Seems so.
So this deep dive into the source material, it really leaves us with a question for you to think about, doesn't it?
Hmm.
When you consider these physical vulnerabilities like a data center fire and the operational stumbles, like the failover not working.
And you layer on the context of maybe smaller teams, but these huge, ambitious goals for the platform.
Yeah, and a leader with this very intense hands-on style, what level of just basic fundamental operational reliability should you expect from platforms that are, let's face it, pretty integral to how we communicate and get information now?
It's a balancing act, isn't it? How do those grand visions stack up against the maybe less glamorous but absolutely essential need for just stable, dependable infrastructure?
Something to definitely chew on as these platforms keep changing and inevitably face more unexpected hurdles.